Hello, my name is Nicholas Navarro, and today I'm going to be talking about social entrepreneurship and for benefit businesses. Before I begin, it is important to acknowledge the state of affairs our country seems to find itself in. Many philosophers and economists note that the U.S. is in a post-capitalistic state, experiencing the result of nearly 240 years of capitalistic fervor and independence. Observable features of this post-capitalist state range from the income inequality gap to the rise of very large corporations controlling everything from politics to the media. What does this mean for businesses, service providers, and the government? Traditionally, it is these three sectors that serve the needs of people. However, the lines that separate these industries is beginning to fade. So let's dive into it. A service triangle takes form when we look at the government, nonprofit sector, and for-profit sector. Some consider the government responsible for serving the most basic needs of the people. The for-profit sector responsible for auxiliary needs and creating a competitive environment, and the nonprofit sector responsible for filling in the gaps. But let's just begin with nonprofits and for-profits. Generally, for-profit businesses create a good or a service that is needed in society, and then customers pay for it. The payment received pays for the service or product provided, and then the profit left over goes back into the pocket of the entrepreneur, company, or investor. Of course, there are further, more complex details of this transaction, but you can see the cycle clearly. On the other hand, for nonprofits, there really isn't a reliable cycle. Donors support the nonprofit delivers its product or service. And then, I guess, you could add another loop back onto seeking support again from donors, but this error is not always guaranteed. Donors can pull out, fluctuate, and support, and even control how the nonprofit uses its money. So where does social entrepreneurship and the for-benefit sector fit into this triangle? To begin, there is no uniformity in what some call the fourth sector of business. This fourth sector can go by a variety of names, such as corporate social responsibility, sustainability, cause-oriented marketing and purchasing, venture philanthropy, social investing, microfinance, civic and municipal enterprise. Austin et al. Defines social entrepreneurship as an innovative activity with a social objective in either the for-profit sector, such as in social purpose, commercial ventures, or in corporate social entrepreneurship, or in the nonprofit sector as a hybrid structural form which mixes for-profit and nonprofit approaches. Under a narrow definition, social entrepreneurship typically refers to the phenomenon of applying business expertise and marketing-based skills to the nonprofit sector. So let's examine this fourth sector and see it through the lens of their consumers, the context, the opportunities available, and the law. In the eyes of the law, there are no structures in place for handling the rise of this fourth sector. The law does an okay job of regulating for-profit industries, preventing monopolies and placing import taxes and so on. For nonprofits, one of the most impactful legal precedences is that these businesses don't have to pay taxes. But to receive this benefit, there's a whole slew of requirements the businesses must meet. The fourth sector seems to fall through the cracks here, as it is not always able to meet the requirements to receive the nonprofit legal denotation, but if it was in the for-profit sector, it would also have to compete rigorously and make sacrifices to the services it provides. The services nonprofits provide are part of what make this sector essential to society. For-profit businesses cannot survive in small niche opportunities. They need big spaces to swim with lots of customers. On the other hand, nonprofits can provide aid to very small sects of people. Think of the National Organization for Rare Diseases. Just in its name, you can tell there isn't a huge market for this business. Fourth sector businesses are able to focus on both small and big markets alike, benefiting from nonprofit opportunity niches and the ability to expand to large for-profit opportunities as well. On the topic of customers, nonprofits and for-profits have very different customer bases. Nonprofits often focus on serving the underserved or in-need populations of society. Fourth sector businesses likewise are able to do this and indiscriminately also serve the people that are more or less well off. For-profit businesses must find customers that have a surplus of wealth and want to spend it. By serving both those in need and those with surplus, fourth sector businesses become more sustainable and rely less on external forces. For-profit and non-profit businesses are mostly, if not entirely, dependent on external forces, whether they be company boards of directors or funders. Without these external forces, these two sectors would not exist. On the other hand, it seems that external forces in the fourth sector are relying upon only their customers. They are the first priority, hence the name, for-benefit businesses. But how do you measure the fourth sector's success? It is notoriously hard to measure the outcomes of nonprofit work. In the for-profit sector, revenues, profit margins, and percentage of market share are easy measures to quantify success. Nonprofits are generally measured by the number of people they serve, and other statistics related to the service provided, i.e., maybe school attendance. Fourth sector businesses, again, combine the best of these two sectors and are measurable by a range of outcomes that can provide more insight into if the business is actually doing any good. So we've been comparing nonprofits and for-profits and what I've called the fourth sector of business. But what are some examples of fourth sector businesses? They're everywhere, and some are incredibly successful. Wikipedia is one that may lean slightly to the left on the nonprofit scale, offering free knowledge to anyone who seeks it. Made by Survivors is another example where a husband and wife wanted to do something for women of abuse in South Asia. So they built a business by which women of abuse sold jewelry items they made overseas to wealthy Americans who were willing to pay extra to support a cause. Made by Survivors is a very middle ground fourth sector business, combining the best of both sectors. Finally, let's consider SpaceX. This organization is a right-leaning on the for-profit scale, yet its main mission is to benefit all of humanity. The possibility of living on Mars is made possible by this fourth sector business. In conclusion, the post-capitalistic circumstances that we find ourselves in is opening space for the fourth sector business to expand in. Focusing on only making a profit is increasing the income inequality gap, and the increased gap is weighing on nonprofit sector to pick up the slack and provide more services with limited donor support. And the government, already in debt, flippantly cuts and funds programs based on a detached political agenda. It is possible to change the world, and necessary that we adapt our industries to ensure equality at all levels of social functioning. In a post-capitalistic society, we must blend existing paradigms to